stop designing boring and obvious logos. So this is a boring and obvious logo, okay? And as graphic designers, we want to do everything we possibly can to avoid designing logos like this. Well, because they suck, and I will give you the reasons on why they suck later, okay? But this isn't an obvious and boring logo, Mark. And actually, this challenges so many typical logo design ideas and concepts and principles. And, well, this little wee donkey right here, he changed the course of my life forever. He actually changed my life as a graphic designer for good and a little bit for bad. So today, I want to share the story behind this little donkey logo, okay? The risks I took, the mistakes I made, and some of the lessons that I learned that could change the way you approach logo design forever. Now, before I do that, I need to take you guys back 10 years to where this logo design was originally born. So we're gonna get out of the studio and go on a little trip. Now, you're probably asking yourself, dude, why are we here at the beach on a freezing cold day in January? Well, this is actually the place where baby CJ started his journey as a graphic designer. And actually 10 years ago, or over 10 years ago now, I studied graphic design here in university. And this is the exact place where I got my first ever project, my first ever brief, okay? But I didn't know at the time that that was going to be the brief that changed the course of my life. I had no idea at the time. And look, the brief was to create a logo design for a film festival here on this very beach. Sounds simple, right? Sounds fair enough. Well, I didn't realize that the stakes were so much higher than I first anticipated. Now, this was not like any normal logo design brief because it wasn't actually set to us from the university or from our lecturers. It was actually a competition between myself and my peers. And if you won that competition, not only would your logo design actually be used in the real world on that film festival down there on that beach, you would actually have the opportunity to work for a creative agency for free, but it was real life experience. So naturally, as a young baby Siege, I wanted to know how I was going to stand out and win that competition because god damn, did I want that opportunity. This was the golden ticket for a graphic design student because not only did you get to go to university and learn from your peers and your lecturers and walk out with a graphic design degree, you also had the opportunity to work for an actual creative agency with real budgets and real projects and real deadlines, okay? This was the perfect recipe to kickstart any graphic designer's career, and I wanted it so badly, but how was I going to stand out from my peers? How was I going to create a logo that ultimately wasn't boring and obvious, that made that creative agency stop and go, that's the guy I want to work with? How the hell did I convince them that this wee little donkey logo was the right way to go? I think the only way to show this to you, and I'll be completely honest, this is not how the logo looked. I'll actually show you what it looked like 10 years ago when I originally designed it. But I think we need to go back to the studio and I'm going to show you exactly how I came up with this logo. So let's get the hell out of it because I'm freezing. Okay, we are now back in the lovely and warm studio. Now look, I really love showing you guys the most realistic side of being a freelance graphic designer, okay? That's kind of what inspires me to create content just like this one and make videos just like this, because it's really easy for us to show the highlights of our life and show all the wonderful work that we do, but it's not so easy for us to show the ugly stuff too. And ultimately, there's always gonna be ugly stuff because no one is born great at stuff, okay? Like, I was not born amazing at graphic design and creating logos. I sucked. And although this was the logo, and this is the concept that changed my life and made me who I am today as a graphic designer, this isn't really what it looked like over 10 years ago now. And this is not exactly the logo I presented to that creative agency all that time ago. So I think the only way to do this story any justice and to show you how I got to that creative idea that changed my life, I need to show you exactly what it looked like. So without any further ado, I'm gonna show you something really ugly, okay? Try not to judge. Oh my God, I can't believe this is the logo that I presented to them over 10 years ago now. Now, as you can see, I just smashed a donkey and a camera kind of together. That was my idea, and it's literally just got the silhouette of the donkey. It's even got the little fur in his ears and in his tail and some hooves. I mean, it's ridiculous, right? But it was the concept. It was the concept that I shared with that creative agency that made them go, hang on a minute, this is the dude that we want. This is the kind of level of creativity that we're looking for. Now, I can guarantee you're probably asking yourself, why the hell has he put a donkey and a camera together and called it a logo, right? I totally get it. But when I was presenting this to that creative agency, yeah, I was terrified because the stakes were so high. This was a competition, remember? So I needed to stand out, and this is kind of like what most designers are experiencing right now. You need to come up with creative ideas that truly stand out. And that's why I say you need to avoid those boring and cliche logos, because we see them all of the time. And I could have easily fallen into that trap when coming up with this logo. Now, it's not the best executed logo in the world, I know that, but the creative thinking behind it, that's what the creative agency saw, and that's why I won the brief. And then I got the work experience, and that work experience led on to being paid to work with them for the next 2 to 3 years whilst I studied in university, which then led on to then having a job after university with them and working with some of the most amazing brands in the world. And then I got to go freelance, and I now run my own creative agency here successfully. And I owe it all to avoiding designing those boring and obvious logo marks. But how do we avoid coming up with those really boring and obvious logo designs? Well, I think the only way for me to show you how to do it is to, well, show you how I did it with this particular logo. So let's go and do that. Now team, before I start any project, and especially before I started the Film Western logo project, I actually do something that sounds kind of counterintuitive, okay? It sounds like you shouldn't do it, and that's actually I start with the obvious and boring logo concepts first, because I think it's a really normal reaction for us to do that, okay? We hear the name Film Western and our brains want to go and play in that world of, well, films and visual signifiers around film, okay? So I think the best way to do it is, instead of just avoiding those concepts and just trying so hard to come up with something different creative, is let's flush it out of our system. So I actually spend some time and do a little exercise, and I did all that time ago, 10 years ago, where I just get a piece of paper and a pen and I start coming up with just those really typical, boring, obvious logo marks that we could come up with. Team, we have done it. We now finally have a page full of ultimately very boring and obvious and crappy logo design directions that we could have gone down. But like I said, this isn't a particularly groundbreaking thing, okay? It's a very simple exercise, but what it does is it flushes the crappy ideas out of us, okay, and leaves us hopefully with having to come up with something creative. I truly believe the best way to come up with something creative is we have to go through the weeds and through the ugly stuff first, okay? So look, we've got on here things like film reels, clapperboards, play button, lenses, megaphones, spotlights, tickets, masks, popcorn, red carpet. Boring, okay? This is all stuff that we typically see, all typical visual signifiers for a film logo or a film-based brand, okay? And we want to avoid this. Now remember, when I was coming up with that Film Western logo, it was a competition. So I knew many other designers and my peers were probably gonna land in this world. So how was I gonna come up with something truly unique to that brand, okay? Specifically to that festival that made them special. So the second thing that I do to, well, avoid creating those really boring and obvious logo designs is, well, I stop looking where everyone else is looking, okay? That means stripping back from all of the unnecessary distractions and influences and working with the raw basics, which is, well, a bloody good brief, okay? So what I was seeing was a lot of my design friends and peers in that course getting the same brief as me, but they were running away to the likes of Pinterest and Behance and Instagram in the hope of finding really great logo design inspiration. And yes, of course, you can find some amazing work on these platforms, but what's gonna happen is, well, they're cookie cutter logos half the time, okay? They are the designs that we find here in that boring part and stage of the process. And we also forget that the logos that we're looking at, well, they weren't intended for your brief. They were intended for somebody else's. So I think it can be very dangerous this early on in the logo design stage to be influenced by somebody else's work. So, as you can see here, I actually have the logo design brief from Film Western right here. And what I like to do is go through it and find any key pieces of information that can influence me as a designer, because that's what should be influencing me. their story, their missions, their values, things that make this festival special to them. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go through this brief here and look for some key information that can hopefully influence me as a designer, okay? We're looking for certain themes, feelings, emotional connections that make this festival special to them. I'm thinking more about the whys, the hows, the wheres, as opposed to just what it is, okay? So as you can see here, we've got Film Western is a non-profit film festival. Well, that's lovely, okay? We've got non-profit festival here, proudly based in a seaside town. That's lovely. We've got some real emotional connections going on here. We've got championing the artistic, political, social, and cultural power of film and video. Love that whole sentence right there. We've got our mission here, which is we are a community-inspired initiative, so community-inspired. Lovely. And for lovers of independent cinema. Independent cinema is another one lovely. They've got this word of independent, proud, community-inspired. And here we have promoting connection on an individual, local, and regional level, okay? Well, this is lovely now. We're starting to have some real wonderful ideas around community, independence, local, regional levels, okay? We've got the essence of Film Western. So at its heart, Film Western is about community, creativity, and nostalgia. That's a beautiful word, nostalgia. That spoke to me when I read that word. I thought, great, how do we bring a level of nostalgia into that logo mark? Situated in a seaside town known for its rich cultural history, we aim to blend our heritage with forward-thinking spirit of independent film. Love this, we got rich cultural history, blend of heritage and forward thinking. These are really great words, okay? This is what should inspire us and influence our creative design thinking. And here we've got the logo should pay homage to the charm and nostalgia of the town. So this is a really great piece here. And this sentence here is really helpful, okay? Because we have the design should evoke warmth and familiarity, connecting the audience on an emotional level while celebrating the unique quirks and character of Western, okay? Quirks and character of Western, that could be something right there. The design should be playful yet sophisticated and feature subtle yet meaningful symbolism tied to Western's heritage. So look, just like that, instead of looking on Pinterest and Behance and looking at the brief here, we can find some really powerful and inspiring words directly from the brief, okay? And then we can take some of these more boring concepts and ideas that are very flat and elevate them with the information that we have in the brief here. So that's what I'm gonna do now, is now look through this brief and see if there's a way we can connect the dots. After I'd spent some time looking at that brief and dissecting some of the words, we now are left with some really powerful themes and logo concepts right here, okay? Without going on to Pinterest and Behance and hoping we find up a clever idea, we have it right here, okay? So we have non-profit, proudly, seaside, nostalgia, independent connection, cultural history. These are all things now that are tied heavily to that brand, to Film Western now. So the next steps then, well, how do we visually represent some of these words? How do we visually represent the seaside without being boring and putting waves in it, okay? How do we bring a sense of nostalgia to that identity? And that's when you then go away and start doing that research. And that's what I did. I started to research the cultural history of Weston-super-Mare, where the film festival is based, okay? I looked at the seaside. I tried to find nostalgic things about Western, so I could inject it directly into that logo. And it was amongst doing that research and looking into the cultural history of Weston-super-Mare that I found this image. I found donkeys on the beach. This was the image that changed everything for me. This is what made Western so special, the beach so special. This is how we represented the cultural history of Weston-super-Mare. It had nostalgia. As children, we would go to the beach and we would find donkeys that we could pet and we could ride. I remember it from my own childhood. This is what made the beach and Weston-super-Mare so special. The second I clapped eyes on that bloody image of a donkey, I knew it was the right direction to go for this logo because, well, it was strange and unique and different and not obvious, okay? And that's what was going to help me stand out to that creative agency. And, well, the donkey, it represented everything that was in their brief, okay? We had seaside. Well, the donkey did that without having to ram a wave or sand into the logo, okay, in that boring, typical manner. We had nostalgia, okay? Well, the donkey had been around for years and years on the beach of Western-super-Mare. I remember, as a young little dude, going to that beach and feeding the donkeys and riding the donkeys. It was like the best weekend ever. You couldn't ask for much more as a child. So we got that nostalgia feeling in the brand, okay? We have artistic and independent. Well, donkeys are known for being such resilient, hard-working, independent animals, just like the filmmakers that were a part of this film festival, okay? They were hard-working, independent filmmakers with very little budgets, but they wanted to make something truly artistic, and that's what this film festival was about, celebrating that independence. And that's how I landed on this strange, weird, not-so-logo-like donkey camera. So that's kind of the story about how this logo design completely changed my life for good, and it really did, because it got me noticed, okay? It got me my first ever paying graphic design gig, which led to working with some of the most amazing brands in the world, okay? I actually owe so much to this terrible logo design, okay? And as you can see, well, it is shit. So I decided, fast forward to now, to redesign that logo to this. And well, this logo changed my life a little bit for bad. As I always do, I shared that redesigned logo with my audience. And I was genuinely excited because I wanted to show how far I'd come as a graphic designer. And at first, yeah, it was great. It got real traction. And 5 million views later, I thought, wow, this is every freelance graphic designer's dream. But then, the comments started pouring in. It was like a tidal wave of absolute negativity just crashing over me. And the more I read, the worse it got. And of course, I just started to question everything. Am I even a good enough graphic designer? Were all of these comments actually correct? Did I push it too far? Was the concept a complete mistake? Should I have played it safer? Did I stand out too much? Why is it that all of my creative work never feels good enough? Should I even be doing this? Should I even continue pursuing graphic design? Should I just quit? Fuck that! So instead, I doubled down on standing out. I filmed more content with more creativity, designed bolder logos, made riskier design decisions. I put myself out there for the world to see, day in, day out. People can criticize my work, they can criticize me, but I was not gonna let it stop me from pursuing my dream of becoming a freelance graphic designer. I wanted this. I wanted it more now than I did 10 years ago. Millions of people had now seen my work, my ideas, my creativity, and they had an opinion on it. Why is it a donkey? Was it a camel? Is it even a logo? These were all questions that started to come to the surface, and it scared the crap out of me, but actually it was an amazing thing, because the more conversation there was, the more eyes on my work, the more pushback I got, the more I learned about people's perceptions, the more views that I got, the more opportunities started to land in my email inbox. But why was all of this happening? Because me and my work stood out. It broke the rules, it made people notice, and that's when I learned the most important lesson. Standing out is scary, but it's also one of the most powerful things you could possibly do as a creative. The designs that challenge norms are the ones people remember, talk about, argue about. It creates conversations, and that's what any good piece of design work should do. A great logo should represent values, not a product or service. It should tell a story, be unique, and avoid trends.
Still on some what have you done for me lately? No gravy if the base is pork face. Poor dates, ate my big little brother's court case. Poor taste, got passed off as gourmet.
10 years ago, that donkey completely changed my life. It taught me to think creatively and push past the fear of criticism and start to create with more purpose. If I hadn't have embraced the boring logos first and flushed them out of my system, I don't think I ever would have come up with that stupid donkey logo concept in the first place. And if I'd have got stuck on Pinterest, I don't think I'd ever would have come up with something like truly unique. And if I'd have been too scared to stand out and put myself out there, I don't think I would be here doing what I'm doing today. That stupid donkey logo has followed me from my first ever project I ever worked on to now, running my own graphic design studio. And that's exactly why I don't design boring logos. And that's exactly why you should avoid designing those boring and obvious logos. We should always be striving to create unique, creative, bold, and disruptive logo concepts. Oh, and to all the people that criticized me, my face, and my personality, thank you. You guys truly changed my life for good too. Peace.
Hold it down till I get back.